Were asking tough questions about support for their work in Iraq, and they weren't getting the answers they wanted.
CENTCOM told us that we don't have the force levels necessary to give you any protection, so you have to go get your own security.
I looked at Tommy Franks. He was the man missing in action. In Orha, my counterparts and my staff and I made the argument that we should be working for Tommy Franks to move post-war planning activities ahead.
What was the response to that?
The response from the combatant commander of Central Command at that time, just a few days before we departed for Kuwait in March of 2003, was related to us with a single quote, that I don't do bus schedules.
Tony Blair has warned Saddam Hussein that he's facing a final chance to disarm or to leave Iraq if war is to be avoided.
First tonight, ganging up against war.
There's been little sign, though, of any let-up in the momentum towards war.
Now General Cross paid a visit to number 10. He spoke to Mr. Blair face to face.
I told him that Ghana's team was small, and that there were large areas of uncertainty and a lot of work still to be done, and that in my view it was not yet clear that we had a coherent plan ready for the reconstruction of Iraq post-military campaign.
Did he seem surprised by what you had to tell him?
I think he was concerned.
Where did that leave the President's assurance to the Prime Minister that post-war planning was being taken care of?
We knew at the time it wasn't being taken as seriously as it should have been. We had Tim Cross. He was saying to us, you know, we need to be doing more. The Americans need to be doing more. So I don't think the fact that the President told the Prime Minister it's okay means you assume it's okay. The impressions we were getting from others were that it wasn't okay.
It wasn't too okay in Britain either. Whitehall had set up a small group called the Iraq Policy Unit to contribute ideas about running post-war Iraq. Like the Americans, this was done just 2 months before the invasion. One source told us officials had to make up a lot of things as they went along.
Iraq had been a dead zone as far as the Foreign Office was concerned, Foreign Office careers, people serving in Iraq for a good 12, 13 years. So Iraq wasn't exactly a career stop if you're looking for a high-flying career in the Foreign Service.
In charge of Britain's contribution to reconstruction was the Department for International Development. We've been told by senior officials that Claire Short's department effectively went on strike. She denies this. She did have deep misgivings about the war, but she says this wasn't why she refused to send staff to Iraq to help with reconstruction.
Everyone was wanting to send officials into the new administration to advise, and the assumption was that the Department for International Development would pay for them all. And we know from Sierra Leone, Afghanistan, Congo, wherever you go, that if you get people flying in from all over the place, you get chaos. And we were having to make ourselves very unpopular, I was saying we're not paying for all these people, and everybody at that stage thought it's all going to go so well and everybody wants to be there and part of the victory.
Those on the ground were told there'd be very little extra money for reconstruction from the then Chancellor, Gordon Brown.
I was not aware that anything specific was being set aside for the reconstruction, long-term reconstruction of Iraq. And I was certainly not getting any guidance at all on what our contribution would be. Indeed, the very reverse was true. In all cases, whenever this issue was raised, I was directly told it will be American resources that will be used, and we will have a part of that overall resource coming out of Washington.
Final countdown to war. Tony Blair calls an emergency cabinet meeting.
Much drama and high tension at Westminster as the Prime Minister prepares for the biggest gamble of his political career, waging war without United Nations support.
As diplomacy dies and war looms, UN inspectors are preparing to pull out of Iraq.
2 days before the invasion, Charles Tripp received an urgent request which had been forwarded from the Department for International Development, DFID.
It was an urgent email to ask me within the next week or so, did I know of anyone or could I do it myself, who could do some what they call desk-based research on government structures in Iraq. And even more important, could I provide them with a bibliography? And it struck me as something even more surreal that here was the British Army, as one knew by then, ready to occupy a chunk of Iraq. And here was a major agency of the British government asking me a few days before the invasion, could I send them a reading list about how power was structured in Iraq? So there seemed to be no sense that that there'd been any preparation in that government agency for a thorough assessment of what the structures of power in Iraq were. And if that applied to DFID, it possibly applied to many other agencies, I don't know.
President Bush has delivered his ultimatum to Saddam Hussein: leave Iraq within 48 hours or face war.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing.
He said military action had been authorized by existing United Nations resolutions.
Mr. Blair had wanted the invasion delayed until the end of April and had asked for more time. But now the British were told firmly, time's up. Despite presidential assurances that the aftermath was being taken care of, all the warnings Mr. Blair had received from the British side suggested otherwise.
If you back an invasion that topples a government that controls 26.5 million people, and you haven't got a plan for the aftermath, or you're worried about that and you still back that plan, that is criminal negligence.
Kuwait was the first stop for Jay Garner and his reconstruction team. The US military still had no settled plan for how to stabilize Iraq when Saddam fell. And Garner had no instructions about how to form a new Iraqi government, or even what it should look like. It was, in every sense, a journey into the unknown.
I think we all had this feeling that this was going to be some kind of horrible mission impossible. We didn't have resources. We had maybe 120 people on the reconstruction side to run a country of 25 million.
While in Kuwait, Garner's team was visited by Rumsfeld's right-hand man, Lawrence de Rita. When one of the team began to explain the benefits they hoped to bring to the Iraqi people, de Rita cut him short.
He no sooner got those words out of his mouth than this fist comes down on the table and just jars the room. And I thought, holy cow, what was that about? And de Rita he forcefully says, the only thing we owe the Iraqi people is their freedom, and our soldiers are giving them that. We're getting rid of Saddam. We don't owe them anything else. And I sat back in my chair and I thought, holy hell, what are we here for then? Why don't we all just go home? It was astonishing, and the people sitting around the table were just flabbergasted.
These were the first bombs in the very heart of Baghdad.
Waves of airstrikes are underway, and they're meant to destroy...
And the ground offensive began. It was a bombardment of terrifying intensity, the noise splitting the night. It was hard imagining surviving it.
We've been told it was only now, after the war had started, that Mr. Blair began to push the Americans hard on what would follow. One senior official said, I didn't feel that post-war planning was very high up on his list of concerns. The Saddam regime was toppled in just 3 weeks.
The symbolism of this moment just can't be overestimated. It's the symbol of 25 brutal years being brought to